let's talk about the rest of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. So, today I'll be going over the second half of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. So this will be Leo. Why do I have a hard time remembering that? Hyrudine, Orlumbus, and then Bellamy will be what I'll be going over in this one in regards to the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. Stories of the self-proclaimed Straw Hat Grand Fleet. So where we left off last time was we had finished up with Ideo and him and his crew setting out, forming the Ideo Pirates, with him and Bluegilly and Beljeet and Abdul. Or Abdul and Jeet, excuse me. And now we are going to be going into Leo's arc for this. So, little bit of basic info here. The Tontatta Pirates, as they are called, their captain is Leo. And they're kind of, some of their main members are like Kabu and Bine and Wicca and several of the other Tontattas that we see throughout the course of the Dressrosa arc, because of course, you know, a good chunk of them gets shown there. And just many other Tontattas. And their ship is the Usoland, which is just funny, and it looks like Usopp, which we'll get to in this one. So first off, we have volume 22. We've become pirates. So we see Leo and the other Tontatta pirates that are there. And we also see Violet and Rebecca in the background, and they are making outfits for each of them, and they're different themed colors and everything. You know, Leo got his green, and Kabu has yellow, and, you know, Bine has pink and all that stuff. And we see them in the background helping make the outfits for them, and they're like, we are pirates now! So they're cute. Then we have 23. Boys, we're gonna rebuild every last building in town. So, this is just adorable. We have Leo here, and he and the other Tontattas are like, well, our kingdom's kind of in shambles right now, so let's help with the rebuilding efforts, which is just adorable. We have Leo here on the back of just a dog going like, we shall rebuild, which is just adorable. And we see, I don't know, that might be Tank in the background, I'm not sure, but it's just one of the other, we see some of the other citizens in the background, that are like, help, you know, the Tontattas are, since they're so strong, they're helping lift and move a bunch of the things, really quickly. And yeah, since Dressrosa really got kind of shredded, literally, during, Dofi's birdcage fun, yeah, Dressrosa very much needs to be rebuilt. And cleanup efforts, rebuilding, all of that other stuff. We'll see what happens. Then we have 24. From the people of Dressrosa. So the citizens of Dressrosa, of course, are very supportive of Leo and his group and his crew and everything else like that, it being pirates. And, you know, the Dressrosa is like kind of one of the hidden allies of Luffy at this point in time. Kind of the same way that like the Prudence Kingdom is in regards to Elizabeth II, and the way that Alabasta is. Well, it was through Cobra and Vivi, but now it's just kind of through Vivi. But like Igaram and the others know that, you know, they will work with the Straw Hats because they are their allies. Stuff like that. Same thing with like Fishman Island and Wano and different things, like different countries like that know that the Straw Hats are their allies. And so the citizens of Dressrosa decide to make Leo's crew a ship for them to do. And it's Usopp's face fault as the figurehead, so it's the Usoland. And all of the guys are just like, oh god, that's awesome! Now, the ship itself is not like this huge ship the way that, like, this ship is smaller than the Mary was. But it's also a ship designed for Tontattas. So everything is like to Tontatta scale, or maybe a tad bigger. And so they have like fun with that. So it's a cute little ship that for a human would be like, this is kind of a small ship, but for the Tontattas, it's a perfect size. So it has like the Usopp's face fault where he scares Sugar as the figurehead, which is just adorable. And then we have 25. we're checking out our new pirate ship. So they're just like looking all over and exploring the ship, and they name it the Uso Land. And it's got like some of the Tontatis themes on it. There's like the little mushrooms and the small little trees and different things like that kind of show stuff that is representative, like the little world that they live in on Greenbit. So it's a nice little representation of that. So we have like this nice bit here, and like a bunch of the shipwrights who made the little ship for them are like very happy in the background. We see that, which is nice. Then we have 26. We've been assigned as escorts for the Reverie. So we have Leo, Kabu, and Bine have gone into the castle, and they are talking to Riku. And, we see several of the other guards in the background. And Riku is requesting that they accompany him and Rebecca and Violet and Kiros on their way to the Reverie, to Marijois. And they're like, well, this is an honor. It's not like these guys have bounties or anything like that, so they would be able to easily sneak in. Plus, they're tiny. So we have that. And that's where this one ends for them here in this cover page, but I am going to throw in for like the little bits that we know that happened after. Excuse me. So we know that not Leo's group specifically, but another little section of the Tontatta pirates do end up finding Pound when he is floating on the tart that ends up near Dressrosa in the Beiji's cover page series, which will be the next one of these. They find him on the tart, and then they give him medical treatment, and then they're kind of there when he sees, Chiffon and Lola for the first time. So that's kind of what happens there. And then the other stuff that happens is, of course, Leo and the others end up at Reverie. We see them at Reverie in the chapters and in the episodes, and Leo gets reunited with Sai while they're there. And he and Rebecca and the others get to meet Vivi and Shirahoshi. So, that's kind of, setting up those connections there. And then, of course, when Charlo shows up the second time in order to try to kidnap, enslave Shirahoshi, Leo and Sai attack him together and accordion the prick. And accordion him. And then they shout out, proclaiming that we are members of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. And then they kind of escape. So, and then the most recent thing that we have seen, as of the recording of this video, that we have seen for Leo and the Tontatta Pirates, is they are at Dressrosa. So they get back to Dressrosa with Rebecca and the other members of the Riku family. They get back to Dressrosa after the Reverie. And they are listening to the broadcast that Vegapunk is doing during his, worldwide message broadcast. And they're there watching it, and Leo, because of course the Tontattas are very, very gullible and trusting, he thinks that it means that Luffy has actually kidnapped Vegapunk and all that stuff. And Rebecca is just like, Leo, you really need to learn how to not be so gullible. I would have loved it. I would have loved it if there had been just one Tontatta, just like one lone Tontatta that we meet, who is not gullible and who is the most cynical little bastard that you have ever met. And he doesn't want to trust the Straw Hats, doesn't trust the Don Quixote family, doesn't trust the Riku family. He's just the one outlier that they're like, that's George. We don't talk to George. Type of thing. That would have been just a fun little character to have had in Dressrosa. It's just this cynical little, no, I'm not going to trust the humans. Why would we trust them? We trust everybody and then we get screwed over. I'm going to go over there. I don't know. That just seems like a funny little bit that they could have had as just a character, as a Tontatta that has learned, but has overcorrected to the point where they don't trust anybody. That would have just been a funny bit to have. I don't think we're ever gonna get that. And then it would have been nice if, at the end of, Dressrosa, we just have this one panel of him actually looking happy and actually being maybe we can trust these Straw Hats type of things. Maybe we can trust this Uso land and Luffy land and stuff like that. Maybe we, that would have been a nice little, like, little pin on that note there for him. I know that's kind of like the part of the plot of the Trolls movies, but I've never actually seen the Trolls movie, but I know that, like, Justin Timberlake's character, the little Branch, I think is his name, is like that very cynical type of troll, as opposed to all the others. So now we get to go to Hyrule. So, Hyrule and the New Giant Warrior Pirates. So, of course, for the New Giant Warrior Pirates, we have Hyrule as captain, Stanton as the shipwright, Rhodes as the navigator, Goldberg as the chef, and Gerd as the doctor. And their ship is the Nagafon, not Naglafar. It means like something's toenails or something like that. It's like something to do with toenails because it's a Norse mythology reference. Because of course it's a Norse mythology reference. And of course, currently in the story, as I'm recording this, we are learning a lot about Elbath and everything else like that. And that includes a bunch of stuff with the New Giant Warrior Pirates. So that's just like a lot of additional information that we are learning, but we'll go through with what I have here. So we have the first one, 27. The top 5 earners of Buggy's delivery have resigned. So during the time skip, at some point in time, Hyrule and his crew ended up going to work as bounty hunters for Buggy. And his, Buggy's circus and everything like that, because Buggy was made a warlord. So Hyrule goes and they end up working for Buggy for a while and being like the main ones who are bringing in bounties to help supply, the warlords. Help supply Buggy's lifestyle. And apparently never pay back Crocodile. And they're leaving. They're like, yep, nope, we're out. And we get like a nice image of their ship here. And it's very similar to what we see for the Great Eric. Although it might be a little bit smaller than the Great Eric. But it's still like, it's a giant ship. And they have like the figurehead, which is like the skull and like the fluffy straw type stuff. And we see like a cool looking dragon in the background on like the I don't know if that's quite their flag, but it's like their symbol on their ship. It's not their flag because their flag is a little different. But also the fact that their symbol there is a giant dragon, I'm wondering if that is also a reference back to the Needhog fruit, in regards to like Loki's devil fruit. And so we also see Buggy in the background being like, "How dare you leave me?" So then we have 28. On the deserters list of Buggy's delivery, the New Giant Warrior Pirates Captain, Hyrule. So we see Hyrule here. Obviously, we got introduced to him during Dressrosa and everything else like that. We see him here. He is now the full-on captain. Well, they were kind of a crew already as regards to the New Giant Warrior Pirates. But now they are, like, no longer associated with Buggy, and, Hyrule and such has sworn allegiance to Luffy. So we see Hyrule here, and, of course, at this point in time, we don't know that much about Hyrule. We know he's a giant. We know he's from Elbath. We know he's, wanting to get the Marimara fruit to become the king of the giants, not the king of Elbath, but the king of all the giants. And, of course, throughout the course of throughout the course of... I'm just going to confuse myself. Throughout the course of Elbath, we have learned so much more about Hyrule. He's the illegitimate son of Harald and Ida. He is Loki's older brother. He went through a lot of the same pain that Loki did in regards to Ida dying and Harald dying and everything else like that. And we see more of Hyrule's childhood and stuff like that during parts of the parts of the Harald and Rox flashback and everything that we got in Elbath. So since this has come out, we have learned so much more about Hyrule. We've learned more about each one of the members of the Giant Warrior Pirates. Speaking of, 29. Deserters list. The New Giant Warrior Pirates shipwright, Stanton. So we have Stanton here. And it is confirmed later that this is the same giant, that Stanson is the same giant that the Straw Hats help free from the auction house. Well, technically, Rayleigh is the one who frees him from the auction house, to be clear. Rayleigh is the one who ends up helping free Stanton at the auction house, along with a bunch of the other slaves that have been captured and are going to be sold, along with Rayleigh and Camie. They, Stanton and the others are freed, and then Stanton and the others leave. Now, we don't know what happened to those other slaves, but Stanton is a childhood friend of Hyrudine and Gerd and all of that group. So he made his way back to Elbath. I guess it's possible that maybe he took the other slaves that were with him and took them somewhere else, either to Elbath, but we haven't seen them, or took them to a different island where they would hopefully be safe, depending on stuff. It's been 2 years, so it's possible. But Stanton made his way back to Elbath, and he was reunited with his friends, and probably told them about, the Straw Hats and stuff like that a little bit. And then, he's back on the crew, and he's their shipwright. We also see him here. He's grown out his beard. He's got a big bushy beard, and he has his giant hammer. Side note, Hyrudine has a sword that he fights with. Stanton has a hammer that he fights with. Then we get into 30, the New Giant Warrior Pirates Navigator, Road. So we have Road here, and Road has his own problems that he comes with, but we have Road here, and he is the navigator of the New Giant Warrior Pirates, and he has this very long sword that is very katana-esque. And of course, we have seen throughout the course of Elbath thus far that Road has this bad habit of kidnapping humans using his giant raven and such to kidnap humans, and then he puts them into his little Lego block city, and then he has himself be the sun god and has himself be worshipped by the people that he has captured. And now he has been electrocuted by Nami and crucified by his own crew, and then now he's helping the Straw Hats. And of course, throughout the course of Elbath, so we have seen him be very brave and wanting to protect his brother Bjorn and everything else like that. So we see that there. And Road is kind of on the road to redemption. Road is on the road to redemption. I still find him creepy, but again, he's improved. Then we have 31. The New Giant Warrior Pirates cook, Goldberg. So we have Goldberg here. He is the cook of the New Giant Warrior Pirates. Both he and Road, if I remember correctly, were born at the same time as Loki. So they're all three is 63 years old. So they're all the same age. We also know that at some point in time, Goldberg's father, who we don't know his name, but he went off to try to deal with Big Mom at some point when she was becoming more of a threat. And unfortunately, his father didn't seem to come back, but the shield came back that had been his father's shield. The giants brought the shield back, and the shield had been turned into a homie. And in the picture here, we see a shield with eyes and a tongue sticking out. Now, this cover page was running during Whole Cake, and we were a good chunk of the ways into Whole Cake when this cover page was going on. So when we saw this cover page, we're like, that shield is very homie-esque, because we've been very much introduced to the concept of homies from Whole Cake and from Big Mom's powers and everything else like that. So it's like, that shield is very much giving off homie vibes. Now, given the fact that this is also parts of this are going through and being revealed, this cover page is happening, if I'm remembering correctly, after we have gotten Big Mom's flashback revealed, and we know that there's this big gap between her and the giants and everything. If I remember correctly, then actually, hold on. Yeah. Like the stuff going on there with like Big Mom's flashback has kind of either already been revealed or is currently being revealed when some of this is happening, or like it just finished up, if I'm remembering correctly. So the fact that Goldberg has a shield that looks like a homie is like, okay, well, it's possible it's a homie. It could have been a homie made by Mother Karma while she was on Elbath, and then it got passed down to Goldberg somehow because they didn't do Mother Carmel as an enemy because they didn't know that she was actually selling the orphans and the kids and everything like that to the world government. So we don't know, so maybe that got passed down from her. But then we don't know about, like, if someone who has the soul fruit, if they die, does that mean that all of the homies that they created die? Or do the homies still survive however long until, like, that power of the soul just dies out? We don't know. We don't know if it follows Horcrux logic or not. I mean, that's kind of what they are. Although they don't anchor the person who made them to life. Although they do serve the person who made them. So, but it has been revealed throughout the course of Elbaf that Nash is, yes, he is a homie. And Nash is the name of the shield. And of course, all of the, most of the members, most of the people most of the giants in the story are named after different types of wrestlers, different wrestlers in regards to, like, WWE wrestling, which I don't follow, so I don't really know any of them. But a lot of them are named after those characters, those fighters and stuff like that, because those are really big. WWE stuff is, like, very popular in Japan. But what ends up happening is, so we see this here, and of course Goldberg is the chef. We see him and Sanji cooking up stuff later in the arc. And then we have 32. New Giant Warrior Pirates Doctor, Gerd. So here we have Gerd, and we get to see her full grown. She is introduced in Big Mom's flashback, which takes place before this. As in the flashback, we see the flashback in the manga before we get the introductions of these characters here. So it's then like, oh, this is Gerd all grown up. So we meet her as a little girl in Lin's flashback. And now we see her all grown up. And of course, and she has a giant axe, and Goldberg has a giant mace that he uses for his weapon, and Gerd has an axe. And of course, similarities have been pointed out between Gerd's design and one of the original Nami prototype designs, with her having an axe and, like, the striped sock and stuff like that. So there's, like, a little bit of recycling there, and I like that. I like Gerd a lot so far as a character. During the One Piece global popularity poll, I voted for Gerd a couple of times. And so we have her here. She has studied hard and she has become the doctor. We see her getting to use her doctor skills on the guards that Luffy's group find in the castle. And then, of course, we get to see her using her doctor skills on Loki. And they're going to be very useful during treating all of the adults and such that got stabbed by Summer's thorns when they were saving the kids and everything else like that. So she's very helpful in all of that as best as she can. She's also a warrior. And we have seen her fight quite well. And of course, we are seeing so much stuff with the New Giant Warrior Pirates currently in the arc, because they are, of course, important members of what's going on Elbaf right now. So we're learning more information about them, seeing more about what they are capable of, and that's just currently what's going on in the story. We also know that at least Hyrule, Gerd, and Goldberg, possibly Stanson, helped Saul get all of the books out of the lake on Ohara, like 22 years ago, 21 years ago, or whatever, when they were there. They helped get all of those books out of the lake. So that way they could be dried and preserved and then taken to Elbaf to keep them safe in the library. So we know that they were involved in that. So that's just kind of like a lot of the information that we have there about the New Giant Warrior Pirates. Now we move into Orlumbus's group. So we have the Yonta Maria Grand Fleet is what they are called. And we have Orlumbus is their captain. And Columbus is his first mate. I think she might also be his niece, but I'm not sure. I think there's a family relation. And they also just have, like, several thousand other members that are never going to get named, or most likely will never be named. They're just kind of like the numbers to, like, fill out the Grand Fleet. They can probably all fight. I don't know if they would all know hockey, but they're at least going to be able to deal with a bunch of like the riffraff or whatever at whatever point in time we end up having to deal with the Marines or whatever down the line. And of course, their flagship is the Yonta Maria. And then they have 55 other ships. He gives one ship to IDEO and his group when they leave. He gives one ship to them, but then all the other groups already have their own ships, or in the case of the Tontatas, will be having their own ship shortly. So we don't, he gives one ship away, so we have that. So we have 33. The Yonta Maria Grand Fleet is heading out to sea. So we see the Yonta Maria with the flagship and all the other ships in the background. And like the figurehead of the main ship it's very much like this angelic warrior looking. I don't know if she's supposed to be representative of like Athena or something else, just a Valkyrie of some kind possibly. So we have 34. In the Standing Kingdom, the trailblazing adventurer announces his retirement. So Olympus and the crew have returned to the Standing Kingdom because that's where they're from. And Olympus has just been an adventurer. He was not a pirate. He didn't have a bounty on him or anything like that. He was just an adventurer for the Standing Kingdom. And now he has returned to the Standing Kingdom and he's retiring so that way he can go be a pirate and be the one in charge of the fleet. The king is not happy about this. Fair. I think we see this guy here at the Reverie later on, so I can't blame him for being mad that one of his kind of more possible senior military officers and the guy who's in charge of the fleet has just up and abandoned him. So I kind of can't blame the king for being angry about it. But, Olympus is like, well, I gotta go do this. So we have that. So then we have 35. The pirate life at 6 a.m. folding pajamas. Olympus just kind of has the longest section here. So Olympus starts his day as a pirate at 6 a.m. by folding his pajamas. Okay, Olympus is a very by-the-book guy. Very must be done on time. Things must be clean. Must be shipshape. Must be orderly. All of that stuff. I do like his hat, though, with, like, the little stars. Is adorable. And then we have 36. At 10 a.m., onboard cleaning check. The fastidious Olympus and Columbus. So this is where we are introduced to Columbus, who, as I said, is I think his niece possibly or something, but she's like his second in command on the fleets. And they are going through and doing a spot check, essentially, of their ship to make sure that everything is shipshape and clean and everything. And people seem to have not done well because Columbus has kicked and is now stepping on one of the men. I'm like, okay. She also looks like a small child. Like, she does not look like she is even 16 yet. She looks like she's like this, like, not that much older than like Rika and the Veggie Pirates. Like, she does not look very, like, that much older than them. But she's here. She's here. And then we have 37. The 56 ship fleet thief. A tearful departure. Thank you for everything. So we have Olympus saluting as he and the ships, all 56 of them, are sailing away from the Standing Kingdom as the king is like yelling at the men to fire on those ships. Don't make them get back here. Stop them. And like we see Olympus like saluting them as he's leaving. As they're heading out from the Standing Kingdom. So then we have 38. At 3 p.m., drafting a piracy plan. So Olympus is just taking it upon himself to put together a plan for how to pirate. Okay. Just making a plan for how to pirate. And he's like doing that. He's sitting at his desk and he's like, okay, I'm going to write this all out. We're going to make notes. We're going to make a list of what we can and can't do as pirates. And then we see like, Columbus is just like waiting there like on the ball, like on her tippy toes, trying to, I guess, read what he's doing. At 4 p.m., a pirate's first campaign commenced the assault. So we have them arriving at this random island, and they are getting ready to attack the island, I guess. And at 4:30, because they were extremely poor, we gave them supplies instead. So we have this moment where, like, I love this for Orlumbus, because, like, it's his first act is piracy, and he's showing up at this island, and he's getting ready to raid the island, and then he just sees that they're so poor and so hungry. He's like, okay, I can't bring myself to attack these people. We're gonna feed them instead, which is actually kind of not quite a Luffy move, because it's like sharing his food, but it's a move that I think Luffy would approve of. Because, like, Luffy goes through and, like, he's, helped save kingdoms because they gave him food. And Luffy is about to end up in a very similar situation to this in Wano, where he and the crew end up in Wano, and of course they end up helping feed the citizens and everything else like that. So even Luffy is not a conventional pirate in regards to pillaging and raiding and stuff like that. But, like, this is an act that Luffy would approve of. So Luffy's, Luffy's happy. Luffy would approve of this. And then we have 41. At 5 p.m., a grateful farewell. First pirate expedition failed. So Orlumbus and his crew are now leaving. The citizens of the island, they've been given food and supplies, and they're very, very grateful. And they're, like, waving goodbye as Orlumbus and his ships all sail away. And, all of his 56 ships are sailing away. And he's just like, okay, well, that didn't go the way that I planned, but I guess I did the right thing. But this was failed, so back to the drawing board is, like, what we get there. Then we have the last little bit here. Now, we have not seen anything else of Orlumbus since then. Since this stuff has come out, we have not seen anything else of Orlumbus. Now, we get here. We get to the last bit, the little side story, Bellamy's little side story. So, this is a dyed goods town. So, we have Bellamy showing up at this town. I don't believe we've ever learned the name of this town, but he shows up at this town where they make these beautiful, beautiful dyed fabrics. And they make flags, and they make kites, and they make all of this other stuff that is just beautifully designed. And I love how, like, in, like, the black and white, you can't really tell how colorful this is going to be. But then in, like, the colored version of the manga, we have, like, these vibrant colors all over the place for these flags, which are just beautifully done. So, and that's 42. 43. A pirate's retirement, the dyed goods craftsman. Bellamy. So, Bellamy has decided, I guess, I don't know if this is supposed to be something that was like, oh, this is something Bellamy always wanted to do, and now he's finally getting the chance to, or something. I'm not sure. But Bellamy has taken up an apprenticeship as a dyed, as like a dyed fabrics maker and flag maker and stuff like that. Like, we see that he's been hit on the head a couple of times by the guy that's training him, and we see him painting a flag and everything else like that, and he's learning. So we see that. And then we have 44. This town uses unrippable cloth. So we see Bellamy sitting here, and he is drawing a Jolly Roger. He's drawing, like, the outlines, the basics of a Jolly Roger. And, like, this town has, like, unrippable fabric. That doesn't mean it's unburnable, but it means that it's very, very durable fabric, which makes sense for a place that makes lots of different flags and fabrics and different things like that. And then we have finale. 45. Pleased to make your acquaintance. First half. And we have the first 3 pirate crews for the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. We have, well, in the way that this would be read in Japanese, we have Cavendish and the Beautiful Pirates and their flag. We have Bartolomeo and the Barto Club and his flag. And we have Sai and the Hapu Sui Navy and their flag. And it is implied that all of these flags were made by Bellamy. How he got it to them is beyond me, but he did. And then we have 46, pleased to make your acquaintance, second half. And we have Ideo and the Ideo Pirates. We have Leo and the Tontada Pirates. We have Hyrule and the New Giant Warrior Pirates. And we have Orlumbus and the Yonta Maria Grand Fleet. And this is kind of the last that we've seen of a couple of these characters. As I said, this is kind of the last that we've seen of a few of them here, or the little bits that we see with some of them at the Reverie, or Barto being poisoned by Shanks. It's kind of like the last time that we've seen some of these characters. But we see this here. They're all in fairly good places at this point in time. So we'll see the next time we see these characters. I don't know. I'm assuming a lot of them were kind of freaking out during the events of Dressrosa, or not Dressrosa, the events of Wano when Luffy was on the roof fighting Kaido and nearly died. And like, they're all like, okay, the Viva card almost, okay, now it's coming back. Like, it's burning away. Wait, nope, it stopped. Okay, it's growing again. What happened? It's healing itself. So it's like, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what happens when these guys show back up again. I mean, like, we're currently dealing with Hyrule right now in the story as of the time that I'm recording this, and I'm quite certain that Elbaf will not be finished before this goes up. So we'll have gotten some more information about Hyrule at that point in time. And of course, because Hyrule does qualify as a member of Royals and Leaders, I will be doing a video about him later on when I end up talking about all the different Royals and such from Elbaf, when I talk about Harold and Estrid and Ida and Loki and stuff like that, and probably Jarl as well, in regards to their roles. So that's what I have here. I thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. And puppy, puppy. He puppy.